your child isn't being dramatic. Okay, well, maybe that's not entirely true, but sensory is their first language. And once you learn how to listen to it, everything changes. Hey there, my beautiful humans. Welcome back to the Redefining Autism Podcast, the touchstone for your soul. Always a reminder that you are not alone, where every episode will have you walking away stunned, thinking, wait, how does she even know that? Today, we're going to build on episode 1. So if you didn't check that out yet, go back and do it. Go back and listen to it. It's where we talk about autism as a culture. But today we're going deeper. We're going deeper into something that underpins everything within that autistic culture, and that is sensory processing. We are not talking about it as a footnote, not as a trigger, not as something to manage or minimize, but we are talking about it as your child's first language, the one they were fluent in long before they had words. Now, today, you're going to walk away knowing why your child's reactions aren't random, but they're patterned. You're going to walk away knowing how sensory input shapes every moment of every day. Why meltdowns, shutdowns, and big reactions make perfect sense. How to stop taking behavior personally and start interpreting it accurately. A lot of us are still working on that one. And how to support your child before overwhelm even happens. By the end of this episode, you'll feel relief, confidence, and connection because you're going to understand more of the why, and because your child is going to feel less mysterious and more human. You're going to connect with your child in a way that goes a little deeper than the past. All right, I want you to imagine a pot of water on a stove, and currently the temperature is on, let's say, medium. And the water's nowhere near boiling. It's warm, it's might be like a little uncomfortable to the touch, but nowhere near boiling. But if we wanted to get it to boiling, we usually don't want to get a child's sensory system to boiling, by the way. But let's just pretend for a minute that we want this water to boil, okay? And we turn it up to high. We crank that heat. Water that starts at medium is going to take a little bit of time to get to that boil. Now, if I started from cold, say the stove wasn't even on, or maybe it was on like very, very low, it would take even longer to boil. However, if you have that pot of water, say maybe set to medium high, and you just inch it up a little bit and give it that little extra boost to high, now you're going to boil quickly. Now, why am I talking about a pot of water boiling? Well, I'm talking about a pot of water boiling because we have to realize that our baselines between humans are all different. So some of us, we're starting at that cold water. Some of us are starting warm, and some of us are starting right at the edge of simmering all the time. And that baseline is important to understand because when you think about the sensory environment, let's just imagine that we're standing in an airport, okay? Or in a classroom. Let's do the classroom one. So we're sitting in a classroom. We are a student or a teacher, okay? And as the teacher, I look around because I was one, and I made all of these cute things for the walls. I made all of these decorations. I have everything color coordinated, and there is not a spot in my classroom that isn't like fourth grade threw up, all right? It's just colorful and beautiful, and there's artwork, and there's pictures, and there's mnemonic devices, and there's posters, and there's flowers, and there's curtains. I have made this is the Pinterest classroom of all classrooms. Now I'm sitting there as an autistic child, and I am taking in all of the sights, all of the smells, all of the sounds, all of the tastes, if there are some. Well, there are some, but we don't want to necessarily be tasting everything. And all of the feel of this classroom. But additionally, which we don't talk about enough, again, we'll dive into it deeper some other time, it's also about how we feel sitting on our chair, or how our body feels in space, if we're hungry, if we're cold, if we have to go to the bathroom. I'm not even sure if I do. These are all of our sensory systems working together at the same time. So now, as I enter this classroom for my day, which forget about what the bus ride was like, forget about what navigating the hallway was just like, I walk into my classroom, and now I am overwhelmed with the smell of maybe cleaning supplies from the night before, and maybe a diffuser with a calming scent that's going in the corner that my teacher turned on in the morning before they came in. The beautiful Pinterest classroom, while it is just that beautiful, it is completely overwhelming to my sensory processing system, because I don't even know where to look, and I don't even know how to take it all in. And then I sit down, and the chair is hard, and it's really hard to sit still. And those lights are just so bright. They're so bright. I was getting a headache from the smell from the diffuser, but now I'm getting a headache because the lights are just so bright. And there's so many kids around me. And they're all talking, and they're all touching stuff, and they're all rooting around things, and that kid just walked by me and he bumped into me, and now I have to, take out my stuff, and I don't even know what I'm supposed to be taking out. And I couldn't hear the teacher because all I was focused on was the fan of the air conditioner over there, and how annoying it was, and how I could hear, Charlie chewing 4 seats over, finishing their snack. And somebody in the room is chewing gum. I can't tell who it is, but there's definitely somebody chewing gum. And I can hear everything, and I can see everything, and I can experience everything, but it's too much. And now my teacher asks me to do something, or asks me a question, or asks me to switch my focus or engage in a task. I can hear my teacher, but I cannot process what they are saying. I can see their lips moving, but my brain just can't catch up. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overloaded, and my nervous system now involuntarily has taken over and is running the show. Now imagine that is not an occasional experience for your child. That is their baseline. That is every classroom they walk into, every day they walk into it. That is every airport or restaurant or grocery store or bowling alley or movie theater or doctor's office or dentist's office or vet office, every bus ride, every sports practice, every activity, every play date. This story becomes the anchor for this episode, because sensory experiences cannot be underestimated. They are not extra. They are not optional. They cannot be ignored. They are the foundation of autistic reality. Open House Week isn't a sales event, it's an invitation. I want to be fully transparent that I am inviting you to join the support circle, but only if after stepping aside of the community and experiencing it, you decide if it's right for you. This is really just me inviting you to hop in the car, hypothetically, with me and some others who feel oddly familiar despite not knowing each other well yet. We're all on the same long, winding road, complete with a lot of detours, construction zones, and sometimes even bumper-to-bumper traffic. We've got gas station snacks, a killer true crime podcast, no pun intended, and zero expectation that you have to have it all together. You can ride along for a bit, see how it feels, and fair warning, you may not want to get out. Most people stay because it makes daily life feel more manageable and a lot less lonely. If walking into new spaces alone makes your nervous system spike, Open House Week was built with you in mind. You can join quietly, take it in, and participate only if and when you want. Come experience the culture of the support circle without having to push yourself past your comfort zone. You show up where you are, take what you need, and leave with support you can use right away. Open House Week gives you everything members usually experience over a month condensed into 1 week without adding anything extra to your plate. It's designed to fit into real life without asking more of you than you already give. This time of year asks so much of you financially, emotionally, and mentally. And while it can feel irresponsible to say yes to anything extra, especially right after the holidays, support isn't indulgent. This is non-negotiable when you are carrying as much as you are. This isn't about treating yourself. It's about having what you need to keep going. Doors open January 9th, but the waitlist is already open, so come on in. Grab your go-to snack, no judgment. Mine will be Sour Patch Kids and a Diet Coke. Get comfy and come hang out with us. The company's good and your seat's open whenever you are ready. Now, when we look at sensory as a first language, as one of the first languages our child or we or somebody, any autistic individual learns, we have to see that sensory in general, like sensory as an idea, is something that we don't always have control over, because as soon as we wake up, we are hit with all of these sensory experiences in the world or from our world. And while we can control our environment somewhat, there's always going to be things that we can't or don't have control over. It is communication though, like on the body, like it is visible communication from our child. Every child has a sensory profile. Whether or not you get a formal sensory profile completed. And again, this is not any type of advice. This is all educational. Just put the disclaimer out there. You can absolutely get curious about your child's sensory profile. And the two sides of it, of the seesaw for each of them is your child sensory seeking or sensory avoidant to any of these things or any of these systems. Now, it could change day to day, year to year, activity to activity. It's not something that is a constant. It is dynamic. But the more curious you get about your child's sensory experiences in different places, different times of days, when you start looking for those patterns, it becomes more easily identifiable. So the autistic culture shares patterns in sound sensitivity or visual overwhelm, body-based movement needs. This is our stimming, texture and clothing preferences, and interoception differences. If that is something you have not heard before, put a little mental star next to it. Interoception is our body's how we feel our feelings. Okay. So how we feel our feelings is actually not the same person to person. Again, outside of even the autistic construct, right? So when we're talking about how hunger feels, how thirst feels, how do we know we have to go to the bathroom? This gets into potty training or self-care. topics. When I'm angry, my hands get tingly. Well, when I get angry, my hands don't get tingly. I may feel like my cheeks are flushed. We feel feelings differently. And autistic individuals for sure have differences in this sensory system of interoception, which is how we feel our feelings. Your child's sensory system tells you what's happening inside them before words ever can. So again, this runs the gamut. We are not specifying based on verbal communicators, nonverbal communicators, or non-speaking communicators. We are talking about any child. Their sensory system is giving us clues, is giving us signals to what is happening and how they are feeling before anything else. Now, we were trained to watch behavior and not look for those sensory cues, which is why we may be confused. So neurotypical culture has taught us that, if we're quiet, that's a good thing, right? Children should be seen and not heard. If we are sitting still, that's the only way we can be paying attention. If we are calm, that is equal to compliance. When we are being emotional, that is us being dramatic. And when we are being avoidant or avoiding something, that is immediately viewed as rude. But autistic culture says something different. Autistic culture says that movement allows for regulation and attention to a task, and that stimming allows us to focus, and that avoidance can be an effort to find safety. Intensity is honesty. And meltdowns are when we reach a point of nervous system collapse, not disobedience. Your child is not melting down because they want to. A tantrum and a meltdown are two separate things. And we have to separate them because a meltdown is not a moment where we can expect our child to be engaged and listening and learning something. That comes later. This, a lot of times, is where our shame lives, but it's where it also has to melt away, because until we know this, it's really hard to do better. We were, in the right book, but the wrong chapter, or we were in the wrong book, but the right chapter. So let's look at understanding meltdowns, shutdowns, and overload. A meltdown is when a nervous system is on overload. Again, this is not a tantrum. This is not a choice, but this is basically a release of too much input. This is like the steam that escapes when we're boiling over. A shutdown, though, this is when internally there's a collapse. Okay. This looks quiet, but it is actually very severe. This is the brain in protection mode. Like, it's protecting itself. Sensory overload is the moment before. Okay. This is the processing bottleneck. This is where we've run out of room. Augustus, what's his name from Willy Wonka? Augustus Gloop, when he gets stuck in the chocolate tube. Okay, there are signals that happen prior to sensory overload that signal us to intervene early. And the more we know our child's signals, which again, all it takes is an open mind and curiosity. And sometimes you're going to get it right and sometimes you're not. But when we are trained to look for those signals, it empowers us as parents by making the invisible visible. We are communicating and we are reading correctly what our child is trying to communicate to us before maybe they even realize what they're communicating. Now, how can we support sensory needs without pathologizing them? This is the most important thing. As we move away, how do we support sensory needs without pathologizing them? And this is one of the biggest takeaways, one of the biggest mindset shifts we can make, where we move away from pathologizing autistic traits and autistic patterns. We need to be practical yet compassionate. And we do this by honoring the need for predictability, by finding sensory yes spaces. So I'm not going to say sensory safe places, because ultimately all our children are different. And even our child who may have really preferred that place yesterday now doesn't today. So this is a sensory yes space, a space that we can find that works for what we're feeling, by making clothing accommodations, by building movement into our child's day, by being practical and compassionate about the communication around overwhelm, offering choices that honor autonomy, and seeing sensory needs as an identity and not misbehavior. Now, once we understand sensory as a first language, we naturally begin to understand communication as a whole differently too. So we'll go there next time. But today we learned that sensory processing is your child's first language. Their reactions are not random, they're patterned and meaningful. What looks like behavior is often sensory communication. Meltdowns and shutdowns are nervous system events, not choices. When you see sensory needs as valid, the struggle tends to soften. And you don't need to fix your child. You need to understand their sensory world. Understanding creates relief. Relief creates connection. And connection creates possibility. Your child's sensory truth is not the problem, but ignoring it is. Honoring it is what allows them to feel safe with you. If today's episode helped you feel a little more grounded, whether in the autistic community or within your own family's journey, go download my free resource, The Autistic Brain Compass. It's the guide that brings everything we've been talking about together in one place, and it's the perfect next step for you. You can grab it at katepamphilly.com/ABC. And if you're craving a community rooted in respect, nuance, and real connection, come join us inside the support circle. If you happen to be listening live, you might be able to jump into our upcoming open house week and get a full month's worth of support and experience packed into 1 week. Come hang out with us and see what it's all about. Find more information at katepamphilly.com/open house. But if you're listening later, don't worry. We always have a seat saved for you. The support circle is where we support the supporters. This is a community built for the ones carrying so much for everyone else. It was created with all the supporters in mind, holding separate spaces, but a shared mission for the exhausted parents, caregivers, and families, school-based educators, and dedicated private practitioners and professionals. This is for those who are looking for connection, support, and a circle of people who just get it. You can find more information at katepamphilly.com/support circle. And as always, you can find all the details about this and more in the show notes. Thanks for spending this time with me on the Redefining Autism Podcast. Remember, support shouldn't be a luxury that feels out of reach. You deserve spaces that see you, understand you, and remind you that you are not alone. If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take a moment to follow, leave a review, or share it with another parent who needs to hear that they too are not alone? That allows the growing community of supporters rewriting what support really looks like to connect and continue to build the very community that we are desperate for. Until next time, take a deep breath, give yourself grace, and remember, understanding your child's brain style changes everything, except for your child, which is exactly how it should be. I'm Kate Pamphilly, and this is the Redefining Autism Podcast.
This podcast is shared in the spirit of education and community. My work is about supporting the supporters. It does not provide medical, diagnostic, or therapeutic recommendations nor care. If you or your child are in crisis or need immediate support, please contact your local emergency services or a qualified healthcare provider. And please know you are not alone in this. Support is available, including trusted crisis lines and local community resources. Help exists, and there are people and resources ready to support you.